If you're a producer, you probably think you're protected by the standard BeatStars contract, but you're not. Listen up, because today I'm going to give you the 5 changes that you need to make to your license agreements immediately. I had to learn these things the hard way, and each one I added into my contract after something had happened to me. I wanted to share them with you so you can make your license agreements airtight and prevent you from making the same mistakes I did. Make sure to stay to the end, because I'll be sharing the most important tip that took me years to figure out and allowed me to collect crazy royalties that I didn't realize I was owed. And I'll also be giving you a free cheat sheet that you can use to make these changes easily and collect more royalties for your beats. All right, let's go. Number 1, adding a no refund policy. Our beats are digital products, and once they've been downloaded, there's no way to give them back. Once it's on an artist's computer, they can make unlimited copies of the file and still use it, no matter what they say. That's why I highly suggest putting a no refund policy in your license agreement. It'll help you in a lot of ways, but most importantly, it'll help you if a customer decides to do some funny stuff and do a PayPal chargeback. If you're not familiar with a chargeback, basically what happens is after a customer has purchased a beat from you, they go to PayPal and they say, yo, someone used my credit card without my permission to purchase this beat and I want my money back. The crazy part is BeatStars shows you all the downloads of any file by a customer in your transaction section. So in these cases, it's usually very obvious the artist downloaded the beat after the purchase and is trying to steal it without paying. You can see the download records for all your beat sales by going into sales, transactions, click on the transaction on the left that says pro guest, and then scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there's timestamps every time a customer downloaded the files. I've even had people file a chargeback and then after I find their song using my beat on Spotify. And the real bummer is, if you lose the chargeback case, you have to pay an additional fee on top of the money you have to give the customer back. So you don't just lose the beat sale money, you lose more money on top of that, so it's a complete net loss. No refund policies are incredibly common for digital products, and you'll find these on all major e-commerce sites for courses, PDFs, and many other types of products. So to add this, go into the license agreement in your BeatStars account, and then you can put something like, since your beat purchase is a digital product, it is deemed used after download or opening, and all purchases made are non-refundable or exchangeable. All sales are final and non-refundable. To edit your contract and add this, go to My Media, Licenses and Contracts, click the pencil tool next to the contract, and then scroll down to where it says Full Customization, and then you can just put it right in. And make sure to hit Save Changes because it doesn't do it automatically. And also, you'll have to add these changes to all your existing license agreements. Adding this clause will help you because if you get a PayPal chargeback, you could show them that you have a no refund policy, and that the customer agreed to this by electronically signing the license agreement. And the customer also received a copy of this when they purchased the beat. I'd like to add one caveat with having a no refund policy. I'm not saying be heartless and if someone makes a mistake to not help them out. There have been times in the past where an artist accidentally purchased the wrong beat from me and they wanted to get a different one instead. In those cases, I figured out other solutions for them so the customer could get what they wanted and they're not just completely out of luck. For instance, you could give them a 50% coupon off the next beat or give them a one-time exception for a refund. It's a case-by-case basis and it's usually pretty obvious if someone's telling the truth or they're trying to steal your beat. So just keep that in mind. Number 2, changing the licensor's option clause. In the standard BeatStars agreement, there's a section called the licensor's option, which basically says that within a period of 3 years, you have the right to terminate the license for any reason. This means the artist using your beat will have to take their song down using your beat off all streaming services. But in order to do this, you have to pay the artist 200% of the license fee. So for example, if they bought a Wave license for $50, you'd have to pay them $100 to terminate the license. When I first got started, this clause seemed like something I'd never need to worry about. But damn, was I wrong. I've had several situations where this clause has become a problem. I won't go into details, but I've had cases where this clause was used purposefully against me to take advantage of this 200% part. So I recommend you change this language from 200% to 100%. And here's why. I believe you should run your business in good faith and do everything in your power to make things work with your customer. But you're gonna have situations where you can't find a solution. And at the end of the day, they're buying a non-exclusive license to a beat that you as the producer own 100% of. The reason why we're able to price our licenses so low on sites like BeatStars is because of the non-exclusive license model, which allows us to sell the same beat to multiple customers. And because of this, they're not gonna get the same things that they would get if they got an exclusive license. And in my opinion, you have every right to terminate the license if you tried your best to make it work with the customer but couldn't find a solution in the end. By having it be 100% in this clause, you're giving the customer back exactly what they paid for the beat. Nothing more, nothing less. And this is what that change would say. In the event that the licensor exercises this option, licensor shall pay the licensee a sum equal to 100% of the license fee paid by the licensee. Now I suggest putting this in the licensor's option section, which is towards the bottom of the standard BeatStars agreement. Number 3, adding your publishing info. BeatStars has language in their agreement that says you as the producer automatically get 50% of the publishing for whatever song is created using your beat. This is awesome, but the problem is that's all it says. So if an artist wants to register a new song they made with your beat, they'll have to reach out to you manually to get your writer and publisher IPI numbers. And unfortunately, instead of doing that, most artists will leave your section blank on the registration and only register their 50%. This is a problem because if it takes you a long time to find out about that song, the 50% that was assigned to this unknown person, you, will be really difficult to collect. And if it's been too long, you may not be able to get these royalties at all because they'll go into what's called the black box. So I recommend putting your writer and publisher name and IPI numbers in the PRO registration section of your license agreement. This is what mine says if you want to do something similar. I'll leave it up on the screen. By the way, if you haven't already signed up for a PRO, you should do that immediately, because without it, you can't collect publishing royalties. And to give a super simple explanation, a PRO is a performance rights organization which helps you collect public performance royalties that are generated from the composition copyright of a song. And I know it's kind of confusing, but basically there's two copyrights to a song. There's the master and the composition. This is for the composition. Typically, you need a writer and publisher account to collect both halves of these royalties. However, some PROs like BMI allow you to collect both from one account, just the writer account. Most others like ASCAP and CSAC require you to have a writer account and a publisher account. And the IPI number is basically your ID number associated with that account. It's like a driver's license number that's tied to it so that people can look you up to register your portion of the song. So just to bring it back around, if you have a writer account and a publisher account, you're gonna have two IPI numbers. And by the way, just a side note, publishing is totally separate from master royalties or producer points. I highly recommend adding this change to your license agreement. It only takes a few minutes, but will save you so much time and frustration in the future. By adding it, it gives artists and their teams everything they need so they can include you correctly on the registration from the beginning. I hope you're enjoying these tips so far, and don't worry, we're almost at the last one that I guarantee you will help you get more royalties for the songs you produce. All right, let's keep going. Number 4, adding a re-recording clause. Let me ask you a question. If an artist buys your beat, writes and records a song to it, and then has it reproduced by a different producer, are you still entitled to publishing? The answer is yes. Because the artist wrote the song to your original beat, it was as if you were in the room with them as a co-writer. This situation has happened to me, and I've had even weirder cases where a song I produced was taken down after being on streaming sites for years. And then the artist had another producer redo my beat and re-released it. I didn't have this clause in my agreement for a long time, and it made it way harder to get the publishing I deserved. This is why I suggest adding a re-recording clause to your license agreement. This could be something like, you agree in the event the licensee decides to reproduce, re-record, or re-release the song in the future with new production not featuring this beat, the licensor will be entitled to 50% publishing on the new release of the song or any other subsequent version as the song was written to licensor's original instrumental. I suggest adding this to the miscellaneous section at the end of your agreement. And like the previous tip, this is something that'll take a few minutes to add, but will help you so much in the future. Because remember, whether or not an artist reads the license agreement, when they purchase a beat from you, they electronically sign and agree to all the terms of the agreement. Ideally, you shouldn't need this, as it's pretty much industry standard to give the original producer publishing if the song's reproduced. But by having this in your license agreement, it makes it crystal clear. And in the event this happens, you can send the contract to the artist team, point out this clause, and get it quickly resolved. All right, last one, number 5, adding a master royalties section. Here's the last and most important tip, the one that's had the biggest impact for me, even though it's one sentence. Although the original BeatStars agreement specifies 50% publishing ownership, it doesn't say anything about master royalties. This is a huge deal because master royalties pay like 3 to 4 times more than publishing royalties. And it's industry standard in major label deals for a producer to get master royalties. So you need to add a master royalties section to your license agreement immediately. Before I move on, I want to clarify a few things that most producers get confused about. And it makes sense because it can be really confusing. Producer points are master royalties. However, producer points and master royalties have nothing to do with publishing and nothing to do with your PRO like ASCAP and BMI. Producer points are typically what the producer is given when the artist releasing the song is on a major label. This is because as part of their record deal, artists will commonly get 16 points that they then divvy up for themselves, producers, and then sometimes mix engineers. And it's industry standard that a producer will get 3 to 5 points, which come out of the artist's 16. It gets confusing, but just know this. One producer point is not equal to 1%. One producer point equals about 6 to 8%, depending on what's stated in the artist's distribution or label agreement. I know it's confusing, and I'll do another video in the future explaining this way more in depth. But for your license agreement, when you add this clause, make sure you do it in terms of total master royalties, not in terms of producer points. It can always be converted later to points if the song is released through a major label. You might be wondering what a normal master royalty percentage is to add into your contract. The answer is, it's totally up to you. A typical amount ranges from 20 to 30% master royalties, but I've even seen some of the big producers say 50%. So decide for yourself, but make sure you put no less than 20%. Seriously. No less than 20%, because 20% is basically 3 producer points, and as we said, that's what's industry standard for a producer on a song. So in your license agreement, I'd suggest adding something like, for producer's production of the beat you intend to use in the new recording, you agree to pay producer 20% of everything you make from the new recording. I put this in the royalty section of your license agreement after the mechanical royalties paragraph. Unfortunately, collecting master royalties is much more difficult than collecting publishing royalties. There's no collection society for master royalties like a PRO is for publishing. If the artist is in independent and uses a distributor like DistroKid, it's great because they can just easily add you to the back-end collaborator splits. When this happens, every time the artist gets their master royalties from Spotify and the streaming sites, your share will automatically be sent to you. It's more difficult when the artist uses a distributor that doesn't have collaborator splits or it's through a major label, because it means you'll have to reach out to the artist or label directly and ask them to give you the accounting statements for all the streams and sales, and then you'll have to send them an invoice to get paid. One last thing I just wanted to say, for better or for worse, most artists don't read license agreements. And just because you put something in there doesn't automatically mean they're going to follow it. So these things will need policing if you feel it's necessary, but it's always a case-by-case basis. I hope you found this video useful, and as promised, I have an 100% free cheat sheet you can download. It's a PDF of tips for setting up your license agreements, and I went a lot more in depth in there and gave you the language I use in my own license agreements for these things we talked about, so you can just copy and paste it in. There'll be a free download in the description below, so go grab it. Thanks for watching. Peace.